Hello, this is Joe Peters with MomFit with Joe Peters. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network and the H.E.R Network on single TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the single TV app in both app stores, iOS and Android devices. While you are downloading, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The single TV app is free. Single TV is also available in all smart TVs since 2016. Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV Stick, Roku, and Roku Stick. Today, I'm very excited to have Stefanie with me because we are going to be touching a topic that is very close to my heart and that I am working really consciously all the time with my 18-month-old gentle parenting. But I'm excited because Stephanie is what I will say. We all are aware of baby doulas. So we're aware of wow, a doula for a baby. What I see when I learn about the Stephanie is she's also a family doula because she goes from pregnancy, infertility issues, pregnancy, help mamas to have a calm and easy birth with hypnobirthing and have the birth that they dream, like the one that I had. And then also transition into after you have the baby at home, what do you do with this motherhood? So Stephanie runs a family circle and does an amazing job not only with mom but with the family and works on conscious parenting. And also, one of my favorite tools, use rapid transformation therapy to bring the results on the client's life and their families. I have so much that I want to talk with you. I have the feeling that we will need to book a second part. But let's gonna start with your story. Who was Stephanie and how you become this amazing family doula?
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for having me and for this nice introduction. I think my journey really started when I became a mom. Like so many other moms can relate to that. All of a sudden, it's not only you anymore. You have to take care of this little baby, and that little baby can like rock your world. And this is what happened to me and my son. So he came into this world and he forced me to look inside. I didn't feel so well after birth, like so many can relate to that probably. I had intrusive thoughts. I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't voice what I was feeling. I didn't actually know what I was feeling. And then I had a therapy session with an RTT practitioner for rapid transformational therapy. And that just opened up a whole valve of suppressed subconscious emotions and memories. And this is really where I went from there. And I see now that the whole journey of parenting really needs to be seen as a journey. You encounter one issue with your child, and then you think, "Oh, I got it. Now I know what to do." And all of a sudden they move on and they have another developmental leap, and you don't know how to deal with that. So you have to constantly work with your child throughout this parenting journey. And the more important than the solutions is really just to be aware, be conscious, like to know why why you feel the way. And if you don't know, then just go inwards and think, okay, what's actually going on? It's not my child, maybe it's me.
I love that. And I think like one thing that gets close to my heart is I have a very similar experience. And one of the things that resonates with me is that um, we do the best that we can with what we have, right? So when I took my nephew to live with us in 2020, and it was literally a 3 week notice of he's coming, he's here. And now that I'm doing this journey with my baby and having more time to prepare and learn and learn, I'm like, oh my God, how many mistakes I made with my nephew when he was living here with me and then going into that process. And I love what you said about understanding that those triggers and what's happening with the kid usually is more of that triggering inside of us of our own wombs. And I will not be able to tell you how many times I get triggered, and because of all the work I've been doing, I'm able to slow down and get scared, saying like, "Oh, I'm thinking exactly what I hear when I was a little and my dad was yelling or my mom was yelling." So it's a fantastic way to approach. But let's gonna talk a little bit about that. About from everything that we can talk, let's gonna focus on gentle parenting. Let's gonna focus on what is gentle parenting, because there is a really big misconception, especially with older generations, of you are spoiling your kid is going to be a little brat, you need to discipline your kid. So let's gonna work with these moms that are mom to be around the world and new moms, to give them some tools for when they get that from the people that are not aware and they are being a little tempted to approach this a beautiful way to parenting, to be confident and say, hey, this is what gentle parenting is and this is what gentle parenting is not.
Yeah, you touch on a very important point, which is the often the confusion gentle parenting with permissive parenting. We think that, you don't need any boundaries, you just let the kid do whatever they want to do, and they can have sweets for breakfast, and they don't need to eat their greens, and like whatever it is, you don't have need to have boundaries, which is really not true for gentle parenting. It's very important for kids to have their boundaries because that gives them safety. It gives them a sense of predictability. This is, my mommy doesn't like that because, so there's always a reason and there's always a good explanation, ideally based in your values, and they are so individual. Like, what is the family value of my best friend, of like, she wants all the kids to sit and eat at dinner together. It's just so important for her. For me, that might not be the most important. What I want is that we, spend at least 10 minutes with each other, and that's it. But I don't need a whole dinner setup. See, but this is also where previous generations kind of, struggle with the new concept of parenting, because there are these rules that they grew up and they raised us with that, and they thought that, you know you didn't turn out bad, like, what's going on, what's the problem? And it's true. And also what you said before, what you cannot change what you're not aware of. And unless we are aware of what we want for our family, it's really confusing for kids to have this gentle parenting concept in the family. So you need to be clear on your values, on your boundaries, and gentle really mostly in the communication. I don't go to work and yell at my coworker because they are 10 minutes late, or I don't yell at my boss saying, you didn't deliver on that presentation. That was really bad. You think I'm going to have a meltdown? That doesn't help anyone in finding a solution. But because we are not very used to seeing kids as, okay, their emotions and opinions are actually valid, they're not the same as ours. Of course, they cannot be, because their prefrontal cortex is still developing. They don't have logic. Their logic is like out of the window. You try to reason with a toddler, you lose. And if you don't have tools, you end up in your default response, which is often either the power over, the yelling, the authority. I am your mother, you do what I say. Or it's also often the permissive way, the power under. It's like, okay, you do whatever you want, I don't care. But that's not gentle parenting.
I love that. And two things that I want to go deeper with you in these comments. The first one is how we can break that. The first thing that I want to talk, because I believe that anybody that is a mom to be or a new mom older than maybe 30 years, at one point in your childhood, you hear, because I say so. You're doing it because I say so, because I'm your mom, period. So when we start realizing on the gentle parenting that that is not enough, because we need to help the child to learn, because what is the reason, what is the consequence, and just because I say so is not a good enough answer. Like you were telling, you're not going to tell a friend, hey, let's gonna go to coffee because I say so, and you expect them to go. But it's something that isn't grounded, right? Because we are also taught as adults in when we were children that that's a way of respect, that obedience and just do it is a way to obey. So how we can as moms start breaking that cycle and start getting conscious about that important part of the communication of always explaining because, and that because I say so or because I am your mom
Mm.
is not good enough.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for bringing this up because that's a big topic and it's not only important for the present, but also for the future. If you think of whom you're raising, like how your child will be able to communicate in the future with people who want them harm, people who want to undermine them. Do you want your daughter for her first job to just be a boss pleaser and work crazy hours, not being able to set her boundaries, not being able to see her worth? This this stuff starts as a toddler. This stuff starts as a baby. So it's very important to get clear on your why. Why are you doing that? And I strongly encourage just to read, books about child development and how that connects to adult behavior. It's all connected. Unfortunately, things that have already happened, they happen, but it's never too late. So I hear also parents saying, he's already 7 or 8 and he doesn't respond to gentle parenting, he's just freaking out. It's a process. So if you are starting this process of explaining, of really reasoning, in a value based communication, that is hard work. Like sometimes it's easier just to say because I said so. So for us as moms or as parents, you really need to just take a breath and say, okay, if I cannot explain this now in the moment to my child, then I just, instead of saying because I said so, well, actually it's a good question, I'm not sure, I just know that you need to get your shoes on because we need to get out of the house. But we can figure things out differently if this is what, if you have a good solution. Always question yourself. If you don't know, it's okay to say, actually, I don't know. It's perfectly fine. We don't need to be those all-knowing parent figures. When kids learn that actually mommy doesn't always have a good answer to my questions or a good reason, that just shows them that we can reflect, and these things are not set in stone. If they have one opinion today and then they learn something new and they change their opinion tomorrow, that's totally fine if there is a good reason for that. And it just shows them that we are vulnerable and that we are working on this together. We are just, as you said, we're all doing our best with the best of our abilities, our resources, and the knowledge we have. But don't get discouraged if your child doesn't immediately respond and you think this is not working for my child. My child is so disobedient. My child is, a wild child, and they don't care what I do. They don't what I say. They don't listen until I yell. It takes time to settle this new way of working together and cohabitating in a family.
And the the blessing with the audience of MomFit is that you are either mom to be or you are very early. So I love what Stephanie said. I will never forget. I was watching a video of a parent, a coach, and then he was coaching a mom, and then the mom start crying and saying, "My son is 13 years old." I still get goosebumps. And she was crying with so much pain because she was like, "I really screw him up. I wish I knew this when I was pregnant." And then the coach, talking about what you said before, say like, "You know how much time you have with your kids?"
Yeah.
And then she was like, "I don't know, a couple more of years." And then he was like, "You have another almost 13 years because the frontal cortex part of your brain, of your baby's brain, of your kid brain, is not developed until they are between 22, 23, and 25. So that matter of is not too late. If you start as a baby, awesome. If you start at a toddler, awesome. If you start at 40-year olds, 7-year olds, 9-year olds, awesome. It's matter of you to take the decision and not letting that to be the little devil that convince you that, oh, I'm too late, so I'm not going to even try. Because what I agree with Stephanie, what you are doing is more than the now. You are actually helping your child to get emotionally savvy and emotional intelligence to navigate the world, to not be people pleaser, because that is the other one that I would love for you to share. What kind of answer a mom can give to her parents or her in-laws or adults in their life when they're like, we did it with you and you turned out very well. Because one of the things that happened, for example, in my case, I was not gentle parenting, I was spank, I was yell. And one of the things that I love about what you said is we forget that they are humans too. We will probably never treat another adult like sometimes some people treat children. But in cases like that, I'm like, uh, do you forgot that I struggled with depression for 20 years? Do
Yes.
you forgot that I had anxiety issues for almost my entire life? Do you forgot that I become a perfectionist that is taking almost a decade to recover from, and a people pleaser, and to the point that I was so afraid to say no that I end booking myself two and three times at the time because it was so scared for me that I always say yes to everybody. And then I was running like a chicken without a head, trying to meet
Yeah.
different people at the same time. But then they get defensive, right? Because then they
Mm.
feel that as an attack. So how we can handle that part of you turn on well when we
Mm.
start, as more we learn, we are like, I survive. But there is a big gap between
Yes.
surviving and thriving.
Mm. Well, it depends on your parents, right? Or it depends on the other person. How willing are they to actually listen, or are they just in their defensiveness? Oftentimes, it's defensive ignorance because hearing the damage they did is really, really hard. And hearing that from someone they love, and they, of course, every parent loves their child, and they, most parents don't do these or didn't do these things to harm us. So it depends really how far you want to go with that conversation. But I would say, in the moment when, let's say, you're sitting at Thanksgiving table and everyone comes together and it's already a bit heated and chaotic, and then you have your 3-year-old or your 2-year-old that doesn't want to sit, they're like, you got to teach him a lesson. He needs to sit at the table, because this is how we did it for decades and generations. So this is what is expected. I think the only thing that you really need to be clear on is why you're doing this. You're connecting with your child. Yes, it's important for your child to sit at the table, maybe not the entire time. Thank you so much for your concern. We also want him to sit with us. And I really appreciate that you brought everyone here together. And we're really happy to see you. Counteract it with kindness. That's something they cannot, you don't want to start a fight in this heated situation because they are only reacting from their emotional state, and oftentimes it's emotional immaturity that they are not even aware of, or that these are concepts they never heard of. And then you can go towards science, saying, look, I know, and you did the best you could with the best knowledge you had. But now there's so much more information out there of what works best for children. And we are really trying him to connect with us and to bond with us over the dinner or over a meal. And maybe he wants to sit at your lap. He doesn't need to sit, alone between cousins he never sees or uncles he never sees. Maybe that helps your child. Really focus on your child. Don't focus on the other people. Just they are not your, you are doing what you're doing because you stand for that. And they did what they did, but it's not anymore their responsibility. So it's you who are in charge. That can help.
I love that. You are in charge. And I will also add that if you start feeling that triggering, it's time to find somebody like a Stephanie to help you with RTT, rapid transformation therapy, because then that is something that you need to let go and heal, and don't create that resentment of like, what do you
Yeah.
mean that I turn out okay? Like,
Mhm.
I've been struggling my entire life. I'm not going to do that to my child. And in that part, that is a signal that you need to focus on what is good for your child, share with kindness and healthy boundaries, and also see that as a signal that there is something inside you of your little girl, of your little boy, that needs to be healed and released. into that part. I love, love, love that, Stephanie. Let's gonna talk about the power of our words and
Mm.
how we can utilize language to encourage and to nourish a more calmer and happier family.
Mm. Oh, that's so important, and it's so dear to my heart because I still hear the unconscious chattering in my house when I grew up about this and that and this and that and here and there. And it's for a child, it's really uncomfortable because a child cannot put these comments into a box. You don't understand what is the adult actually talking about. But all these unconscious comments about oneself, like, oh my God, I ate so much. Look how much I ate. I shouldn't be eating so much. If you have a child and he hears you talking about that, they immediately think, oh, I mean, is there something wrong with food? There's something wrong with food. I I shouldn't be, should I be eating? But I need to eat this. Mommy said I need to eat it, but she doesn't eat this. Like, just become aware of what you are saying. You don't need to say everything you think. It's okay if you just don't say anything. Be really intentional with how you talk about yourself, because this is the blueprint your child gets about your worth and their worth. Oh, if my mom is so amazing, but she thinks she's not amazing, she thinks she's stupid. That, what does that mean? A child gets confused, and then you have all these self-worth issues that you don't know where they're coming from. You're projecting. So, for a really calm and more gentle communication, you don't need to solve everything in a moment. It's okay to let the first volcano, rupture and just disappear and, deflate. And then you can have a conversation. And it's very similar to how we actually want our relationships with our partners to be. What good ever came out of a conversation when you're yelling at each other, when you are just overly stimulated, when you are tired, when you are hungry, when you haven't slept, when your needs are not met, and then you have someone who is just hurting you by not being able to listen, for example. So if you see these dynamics with your children or with your child at home, always look at yourself first. This is really one of the things that helped me so much. Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Is it too loud for me? Am I actually tired? It's not my best day today. Do I really need to, discuss this, that they had a fight in school with that kid again? Do we need to discuss this today, right after school, when I'm already stressed? Or can we have that talk on the weekend when we are on the way to the cinema in the car, where everyone is, a little bit more calm and feels more safe as well? So, what you want in this communication, in gentle parenting communication, is that your child feels safe having those conversations with you. You're not there to get them, you're not there to after them. You are there to be with them, because as much as this topic, maybe the one of the fight in school, is lingering around your heart or your belly area, it is also for the child. They also carry these things. So it's not only that these things are hard for you and your child knows actually that they shouldn't be having that fight, but they don't know what else to do. So having that trust and being able to communicate that with you, knowing you are on their side, that really, really helps them.
I love that. And I love how you make something very clear that I would like all of the moms that are watching us write this down and put it several places in your house. You are the adult. It's your responsibility to regulate, to handle emotions, to lead. So if when sometimes we forget about that and then we get frustrated because they are not listening or because they are yelling or because they're doing anything, and then we forget that we are the adult. It's our job, it's our responsibility to figure out, not them. And I love
Mhm.
how you give us the permission to say you don't have to address things in the moment, because that is one of the fears that you hear some people saying, like, if you don't address it in the moment they will not remember later and don't make sense. But I love how you are opening the space of saying, like, if in the moment you are not emotionally regulated, it is okay for you to pause.
Yeah.
And if you don't remember to do it after in the Sunday in cinema, put a reminder. And if you don't put a reminder and you don't do it, it's okay, mama. Your baby's not going to fail in life because you stop or forget to address one time that he fight at school. Actually, and I don't know if you agree, but I think that you will make more damage if you address it while you are heated, dysregulated,
Yeah.
yelling, than if you don't address it at all.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to share with you, because it was so funny, I will remember when I was talking with you on how we can forget sometimes that we are the responsible. I remember one day my husband was traveling, and when my husband travel is really hard for me because I am a full-time mom, working mom. Anyway, we were going into the pantry. I was holding him, and he was yelling like, yeah. And then I start yelling back at him like, stop yelling, stop yelling. And then after two times I just stopped, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
I'm telling him to stop yelling myself. So I'm telling him, not do what I'm doing to you. And then I immediately start laughing, and I just hold him back and I say, I'm sorry, that was a little confusing. Mommy was yelling too. But it is very, very easy because, like what Stefanie was saying, that automatic way that we grow up can come very easy. And
Mm.
I will tell you something because I've been doing it for 18 months. When Stefanie says that is the harder choice, it is the harder choice. Like, it requires a lot more of effort because you need to be conscious and present and be able to cut up those things, and also be able to show yourself grace. Like, for example, that day, instead of feeling bad and say, oh, I'm a terrible mom and this is suck, being able to show grace and say, yeah, I yell, and I was able to cut it up and correct it. So
Mm.
I love that on the power of our words, and how we can start moving forward with getting more gentle parenting and supporting our kids, and still show ourselves grace on those
Mm.
moments when we just snap because we are trying to do two things. We are trying to do something new with them, but we are also trying to undo
Yeah.
10, 20, 30 years of how we were raised.
Hmm. And even the generations before our parents, it all plays a role in, our behavior, our DNA, who we are, like who we think we are. So it's really a long line. And instead of looking at it as, I'm starting here something new for me, just think about how you raise everyone up that came before you, all those mothers that had such a hard time, raising you because of poverty, because of war, because of um, being a single mom at home, or being just, left alone. It's really, really tough. And if you can think of it as, I'm starting here this new with my child, nurture them so that we have a strong bond and a strong attachment. And one thing you can learn in conjunction with gentle parenting is how to repair. And I love how you said that, how you became aware and how you immediately repaired it. That your ability to put your ego aside and become aware and saying, look, mommy also yelled, that's not good, that was quite confusing. That is such a pivotal moment for the attachment you have with your child. So for all the moms listening, whenever you find yourself yelling or doing things or saying things you don't want, learn how to repair, become authentic, make sure that they feel you, become soft. When we are loaded, we're tense, and it's hard to connect with our kids because they're afraid of us. But when you're soft, when you don't speak loud, you can repair, and you can explain from your point what is difficult for you, and that's totally fine. And if you need that throughout your parenting, because there will always be situations that create misunderstandings, and it is a misunderstanding. A shouting, yelling child or a disobedient child is trying to communicate. You're just not understanding. They don't know how else to communicate it. So that creates this misunderstanding clash. And you think, my child is this terrible child, I'm raising a tyrant. And your child is thinking, oh, my mom doesn't love me. Completely like wrong, but it's the perception we have, and we see the reality only from our own experience. um yeah.
I love that. And go back into what we were saying before of you are the mom, it's your responsibility to lead the path, because I love what you said is a misunderstanding, and how powerful and how game changing will be for every mom in the world to understand that the tantrum, the yelling, the screaming, the shooting, they are not signs of I am raising a bad person or a spoiling my person, but signs of what you're saying of a miscommunication, a understanding, and that we as moms start to rewire our brain to every time that we see that, instead of getting triggered or upset and trying to fix them, say, oh wow, my child is having a hard time, and me as her mama or his mama, I'm not being able to understand what is happening, what is needing. When you were talking, I was almost thinking like, if your child suddenly with magic start talking German and you don't speak German, you're not going to go and tell your child, no, you cannot speak German, you need to speak English, you need to speak Spanish, that is what I understand. You immediately going to be like, oh my gosh, he's speaking another language, I need to figure out how to translate that and understand what he's saying, because I'm not understanding I don't know the language that he's talking. But we didn't connect, and I love how you connected like that with behaviors, and those behaviors are just showing a need that we are not understanding. Thank you so much for that. That is very powerful.
And then
Now go ahead.
I just wanted to add for a tip on how to, if you don't know what to say, if you don't know how to communicate in the moment gently, you don't have to communicate with words only. The play language of kids is so powerful. Like my 3-year-old, he doesn't care about words. He doesn't care what I tell him, what I ask him. He's just, what are you saying? I don't want to talk to you. But when we play, he loves to play hide and seek. I can get him to do everything I want. It, we need to get out of the house in the morning and we just make it a race. He hates brushing teeth. It's catching dinosaurs in his mouth. If they don't want to eat their greens, we are just hiding them. We play hide and seek of the greens in our belly. Like, what the sillier the better. So if you don't find the words, just play.
I love that. I love that. And I love also one thing that you said before, that was pure gold. It is okay to show that you screw up. Because,
Mm.
for example, I don't know how it was your childhood, but my childhood is I don't remember my parents saying I'm sorry. My parents will just know that they screw up, and then they will just compensate with something good, but never address, hey, I'm sorry. I was in the red zone, I was yelling.
Yeah.
Because for passing as generations, it was more about authority, like, oh, you're going to lose your authority. But I love how you give that authorization and say, like, it is okay, and it's actually healthy for you to be able to tell your kids, I'm sorry, mommy was wrong, I'm sorry, mommy was making a mistake, I'm sorry, mommy screw up. And then make it part of them understanding, first, I don't have to be perfect, second, it is safe when I make a mistake to come and say, hey, I make a mistake, I'm sorry. So leading by example and modeling with, when we screw up, being able and humble enough to say, I'm sorry, that was not good,
Mm.
and I apologize. And I will even say, and I don't know if you agree, but I will even say, even in the early months, when you think, when your babies are still not talking, when your babies are still not communicating, even then, if you for any reason, with all the hormones and the sleep deprivation, lose your temper, yell, even then, I think that is powerful that you go to your baby and say, I'm sorry, baby, that was not good, mommy, sorry.
Yeah,
So
exactly. It's so powerful. And it takes a lot of inner work to be able to do that, because you really have to set your ego aside, especially if you didn't grow up with that. If apologies were gifts, and not words or reflection. If apologies were just scrubbed under the rug and you never heard them. So it's very, very powerful. You're starting something new, unlearning old behaviors and starting something new, which is very courageous, but also tough.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's gonna talk about the power of our thoughts. And I love this because, like you were saying, every thought has a physical reaction in our body. So how we can harness our thoughts to regulate our nervous system.
Mm, it's so powerful. And it's also one of the hardest things because only 5% of our thoughts are conscious. So only 5% of what we think, we actually know what we think. The rest is subconscious. The rest is just belief patterns and things we heard in our early years that just come up without us even being able to remember. Then that creates a lot of anxiety, but also the conscious thoughts. So, if a very easy example, if you walk around the house after bedtime and you step on one Lego or two Legos, and it has already been like very painful, everyone knows how painful it is to step on a damn Lego, and you just think, these kids are killing me. This is killing me. Your mind actually thinks this is really a dangerous situation, goes immediately into fight mode or flight mode, like, I need to fight this. What's going on? Then you feel tense. Then you start, you stop being able to think rationally and you go into this spiral of, and the laundry and the dishes, and I asked them a million times to do this, and bedtime was so hard, and it's every day the same thing, and every we all know how easy it is to get into the spiral. Nobody feels good with that. You don't feel good if you're having these thoughts, if you're letting yourself being pulled down by these thoughts. So if you have a thought and you realize, I mean, it's very normal to say, ow, that really hurts. Jesus. Tomorrow, I'm going to ask them before bedtime, 10 minutes before bedtime, we're setting a timer. Everyone is helping me tidying up, especially the small parts on the floor. I do the rest afterwards. But you have immediately a solution, which helps you, to find hope in the chaos. The thoughts we have about our children, the beliefs we have around children. Are children bad? Are they manipulative? Are they defiant? If you shift your mindset, the thoughts you have about your children's behavior will change. So the power of your thoughts is not only about your physical reaction and regulating your nervous system, but also your child's reactions and their nervous system. I remember when my son was 2 and he woke up at night and he was really, really scared. And I had this moment with him. I picked him up, I held him close, and it was in the middle of the night and I was very like sleepy and soft as well. He was so tense. I held him and his body melted into mine. His nervous system immediately relaxed. And this is how we need to think of every situation when our kids are, in a tantrum or really under stress, actually. So these tantrums, they are stress responses in the system. So the calmer you can be, the more positive thoughts you can have, the easier it will be for your child to borrow your nervous system and, slow it down, and don't get stuck with that stuff that they're not allowed to feel. If you say, stop crying, there's nothing to cry about, you want a reason to cry, I can give you a reason to cry. Your child stops crying, but the feeling stays in the body. This is what your feeling is. That feeling is from your childhood, when you heard you have nothing to cry about. You're not allowed to cry. Stop crying. This is your emotions being stuck in the moment. And you cannot help your child through it if you are not relaxed and let the emotions out. You can say, "Well, honey, it's really loud for mommy to hear. You're crying since half an hour. I put my earplugs in. Okay, I'm right here. If you need me, I'm here. But if mommy cannot listen anymore, it's totally fine. If that helps your nervous system to relax and to calm down, please do what you gotta do.
I love it. And we actually have somebody in the audience putting a comment that she's asking you. So Alejandra is saying, hello, how we can connect with our 7-year old.
Oh, nice. You have to do what your 7-year-old likes. You have to enter their world. If you receive a play invitation, mommy, mommy, can you please come play? Go and play with them. 10 minutes a day is what fills their cup. Also check what is their love language. What do they how do they understand that you love them in the most effective way? Sometimes it's through gifts, and that's okay. There's nothing bad about that. Sometimes it's physical touch, words. Sometimes it's just doing something for them that is unconditional. So when you know how your child responds best to love, to what you say, what you do, you really have to remove your ego, be there for them, show empathy, acknowledge what is true for them. Sometimes for 7-year-old, life can seem like, okay, the world is ending if I don't play video games now. You hear me? Like my world is ending. That is true for them. It's not the universal truth, but it's true for them. So if you can go play half an hour with them and then say, look, buddy, I really enjoy this as well, but we got to go make dinner. We can continue tomorrow. What do you think? Do what they like, go into their world, and don't expect them to come to you only, because um, it parenting, unfortunately, in the very early years, actually maybe until they're grown up, is not a two-way road. You got to do it, you got to put the work in, you got to show up for them, and then they will come back to you when they move out.
I love that. And you know what? You know that things are going magical when, like, I believe, I kill you not, I had opened the page to reference Dr. Gary Chapman with the love languages. And Alejandra, I think that for Alejandra, for everybody, every mom, one of the best things that you could do, even if you're pregnant and you're not familiar with the love languages, is go and buy the book. It's from Dr. Gary Chapman, The Five Love Languages. He also have a free quiz online that you can take, and he had also a book of love language for kids, because what Stefanie was saying is so spot on. And that is, literally, we perceive love in different ways. So talking back about my example of talking in German, like, I will tell you my example because I know mine. My top two love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch. So, of course, to my baby, a lot of what I do is I always tell him I love you and how much I adore him, and I hug him. And I'm starting to try to learn what is his love language, because if his love language is, like Stephanie was saying, gifts, that some people say, like, oh, the only thing that he cares is gifts, so he's a spoiled. No, that is a valid love language. Or if his love language is quality time, it will not matter how much I tell him 3 million times per day that I love him. It will not matter how many 10,000 hugs I give him per day. If his love language is, for example, quality time, he will not feel love, because, like Stephanie said, he will like me to sit down for 30 minutes to play games with him. And then that is why it's so powerful to connect with our kids, to know our own love language. And as they start growing and start paying attention to what is their love language, and how we can start using almost like a Google Translate to say, okay, my love language is words, but his love language is quality time. So going back into I'm the parent is my responsibility. I cannot expect him to feel love when I'm speaking my language. I need to go and speak their language. I love that answer. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Super powerful. And Alejandra, I hope that that helped. Okay, now let's gonna talk a little bit about the power of the subconscious mind. Why? Because our, on your own words, your mind loves what is familiar and rejects what is unfamiliar. And I think that that is key for both us as parents and for children, because as our parents, our mind will like what is familiar, that is how we were raised, and reject the other ones. And then for our children, that also start becoming a pattern. So how we can transform our parenting style and overcome the positive unfamiliar style.
Yeah, that is something. If it's not yet for parents who have small kids, maybe it's not yet very pronounced, but this is also something that you see a lot in relationships. How your very first attachment figure, which is usually the mom or the dad, interacted with you, this is how you what you seek out when you are older. So if you grew up in a dysfunctional family with a lot of dysfunctional communication, a lot of emotional neglect, this is what you will automatically seek out. This is your subconscious trying to replicate what happened to you in the past so that you kind of feel safe or familiar. It's just a trick. It's not the truth. But if you find yourself repeating over and over again, having dysfunctional relationships with partners who abuse you or who neglect you or who are not treating you well, it's very worth to look into your past to see, where is this coming from. If you're a parent and you see that, your child triggers you like nobody else did before, and that will happen. It happens to all of us, compounded by sleep deprivation. is it's just, unfortunately, it's just a natural response of our mind, of our subconscious mind. So whenever you feel really, something is off here, I don't get through this, it feels like you are trying to penetrate a bubble that you cannot get through. The subconscious mind is showing you this is, where you need to do your healing. This is what you need to look at. So instead of thinking, my bedtime is such a struggle and they just don't go to sleep, like what the hell? You get, outraged and angry, and you have all that mom rage that, and so many moms experience that. Where's that actually coming from? It is a subconscious belief of how you have been treated yourself until the age of 7. Mostly this is where most of our subconscious belief patterns are laid out, and this is your blueprint. It's important to get out of the victim mentality. Yes, this is what your parents did. Yes, we all wished it would have been different. I fully understand. But you can only move on from there if and once you let go of that victim mentality. Nobody's going to save you. There's no mom coming to say, oh, let me give you a hug. If she didn't do that when you were 5, she's not going to do it when you're 35 because your child triggers you. So you got to learn how to create that inner safety within yourself. This dysfunctional relationship you have with yourself shows in the relationship you have with your child. If you feel you're triggered and you cannot understand where is this coming from, reach out to someone who can bounce back these thoughts with you. RTT is so powerful because it goes into the subconscious mind, but there are plenty of other things you can do in therapy or working with a coach, or even just journaling it out and trying to see, is there a pattern? What am I writing here? After 10 minutes of writing or 7 minutes of writing, your subconscious mind is actually starting to kick in. The things that you're writing are not from your conscious mind anymore. So get really down and do the work and focus on, you are doing this for the future generation.
I love that. And I love that because one of the things that my audience know that I am big on is I am big on a couple of things. The first one is nobody can convince me that being a mom is not the freaking hardest job in the entire planet. Nobody. And because of that, I'm also an advocate of normalizing that moms had the right to have a support system to help them. Moms, like you will not ask the CEO of a company, you will not ask a top performance athlete to perform those big important jobs without any support, without a coach, without any help. But sometimes that is what society has been pushing on moms. So I love what you said about working in you and knowing that it is your right to have a support system. I always talk about support system when you are pregnant, when you are in childhood, like having your doula, your midwife, your health coach, your hypnobirthing coach. Then one other one is your conscious parenting coach. One of the things that I'm being more and more aware is don't wait until you have the challenges with your child being a little bigger. Start learning a little bit of the time while your child is a baby, a toddler. So you start getting that foundation so you are ahead of the time when the challenging situations occur, and know that you can actually be coached and that you can actually be uh, helped and that you actually can have the support that you need to heal yourself. Because this is something that I love how we are closing this episode today, and is you cannot help your child to have the life that they want and that you want for them if you don't heal yourself first. So it is okay for you to sometimes the cliche thing of put your oxygen mask first. And in terms of gentle parenting, in terms of healing your wounds and your childhood, the only way that you are going to be able to offer a different path in life to your child is if you are able to work with people like a Stefanie to heal that. And one thing before we start closing up that I want to say that I love about RTT, what Stefanie does, even when she was so gentle to also giving you other options, is with RTT, it's almost like a secret pathway, because you are doing the work in a gentle way. You don't have to do a lot of work. You actually unlock the doors of the subconscious and then you do the work. So the my invitation to all these mamas is explore gentle parenting, explore healing yourself. Remember that is your responsibility and your job. Stefanie, if you could say one more thing to all these mom to be's and new moms and moms of several kids that are watching the show about um, let the triggers be your teachers and gentle parenting, what will you tell them? And also, if they fall in love with you like I did, how they can reach out to you.
If there's one thing that I can say to parents is you don't have to do this alone, and there is hope. You don't have to live this life of despair and in emotional disparity. It is possible to live a happy life as a mom. It is the duality of things. It is hard, but you don't have to drown with it. And get curious about your child. What else could this mean? What else would they want to tell me with their behavior? What else could this mean for me? Just get curious and let go of the judgment. Be gentle to yourself. That is also what gentle parenting is about. And if you want to reach me, I have a website, stefaniefernandes.com. I have all my social media links there, hang out on Facebook and Instagram. Please join me there. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Stefanie, it was amazing. So if you want to reach out to Stefanie, remember stefaniefernandes.com. And if you want to connect with me and tell me a little bit about how much you love her, remember you can reach me out in Instagram in Unicorn Mama Coach. And let's gonna keep spreading this message of gentle parenting to really change the new generations while we heal ourselves. This show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check www.spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it.